The stars shone brightly over the moon of Delpharia. It was a peaceful place, far away from the noise of war and politics. It was the perfect location for peace talks between humans and the powerful alien empire of the Zephyri. Captain Elias Monroe stood straight in his clean black uniform. His brown eyes looked calm, but his mind was alert. As a human diplomat and former soldier, he had been chosen to represent Earth in these important talks. Not many humans were trusted to speak to the Zephyrian ancient and proud race known for their beauty, intelligence, and strong traditions. Delpharia's landing area was large and filled with silver tiles. The buildings around him looked tall and strange, made of glowing crystal and metal. Alien guards stood in perfect lines, holding energy spears that buzzed softly. They watched Elias with quiet curiosity. He took a deep breath and walked forward. Inside the great hall of glass and stone, many Zephyri nobles sat in silence. They wore long robes with floating patterns that shimmered like water. But all attention was on one person, the princess. Princess Virelia stood near the front of the hall. She was tall, with silver blue skin and long white hair that moved as if touched by wind. Her eyes were a bright violet, glowing gently. A small golden crown floated above her head. She was known across the galaxy for her wisdom, strength, and psychic powers. Many feared her, but even more respected her. Elias gave a respectful bow. Princess Virelia, I bring greetings from Earth and the Terran Alliance. Her voice was calm and graceful. Captain Monroe, we welcome you to Delpharia.
But
I've read much about you. I hope not everything, Elias said with a small smile. For a moment there was silence. Then, to the surprise of everyone in the room, the princess smiled too. You are not what I expected from a human diplomat, she said. I get that a lot, Elias replied. Virelia raised her hand and led him to a private chamber. This was a tradition. First meetings were held in private, with no guards or advisors. Only a recording device in the corner would listen. The room was soft and quiet, with smooth walls that changed color depending on the mood of the people. Inside, right now, they were pale blue, calm and welcoming. They sat across from each other, surrounded by soft light. Tell me about your people, Virelia said. I want to know the real story, not the official one. Elias leaned back. Slightly. We're still learning. We fight sometimes. We make mistakes. But we're trying to become better. We're explorers, builders, and sometimes troublemakers. But we believe in second chances. Virelia listened carefully. Her eyes did not miss a single detail. Him about Earth's history, its cultures, its wars, and its hopes. Elias answered honestly, never trying to hide the bad things. He also spoke of art, music, and how humans dream of reaching the stars. Then Virelia spoke about her people. The Zephyri were old, far older than humans. They believed in honor, tradition, and the balance of life. Their empire had known peace and war, beauty and sorrow. She told Elias how the younger generation of her people wanted change, but many elders feared humans would bring chaos. You speak like a warrior, Virelia said. I used to be one, Elias replied. But now, I fight with words instead of weapons. I see both in you, she said quietly. Strength and heart. Time passed quickly. The conversation became relaxed. For a moment it felt less like a political meeting and more like two people from different worlds finding common ground. But then an alarm rang. Red lights blinked on the walls. A sharp voice came over the speaker. Emergency in Section 3. Unknown attackers inside the palace. Elias stood up at once. His hand went to the small weapon on his belt. Stay behind me, Virelia said. Her voice was sharp and full of power. Her hands began to glow with psychic energy. No offense, Princess, Elias said, pulling out his energy blade, but I don't hide. A second later, the door burst open. Two masked attackers rushed in. One aimed a plasma rifle at Virelia. The other moved fast toward Elias. Elias reacted quickly. He blocked the first strike with his energy blade, spinning to push the attacker back. The second fired a shot, but Elias jumped in front of Virelia and blocked the blast with a shield on his wrist. It burned his arm, but he didn't fall. Virelia's eyes glowed brighter. With a wave of her hand, she lifted the attackers into the air and slammed them into the wall. They dropped to the ground, unconscious. The alarms stopped. Guards rushed in and secured the room. A healer examined Ilias's wound, wrapping his arm in a glowing bandage. "You were hurt," Virelia said. "You didn't have to protect me." "Like that?" Elias shrugged. "I wasn't going to let them hurt you." There was a silence between them different from before. "Deeper, you could have died," she said softly. "But I didn't," Elias replied, giving a small smile. "I'm hard to kill." Virelia looked at him in a way she hadn't before. Not as a human, not as a diplomat, but as someone important. That night, instead of leaving, she stayed with him as he recovered. They spoke more about life, about fate, about how strange things can happen when two worlds collide. Neither of them knew it yet. But something had already begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. 3 weeks had passed since the attack on Delpharia. Captain Elias Monroe was back on Earth, but his mind was still far away. He stood on the balcony of the Terran embassy in Geneva, watching transport ships fly above the city. The sky was filled with light trails as ships passed between the stars. But Elias wasn't looking at the sky, he was thinking about someone. Princess Virelia. He remembered her eyes glowing as she faced the assassins. He remembered her voice when she said, "You could have died." And he remembered the strange connection between them, one that felt deeper than duty, deeper than diplomacy. Since that night, Elias had received no message from her. The Zephyri royal family had kept silent. First leaders had warned him to stay quiet about what happened in the private chamber. "You're a soldier and a diplomat," his commander had said. "Not a prince." But Elias didn't care about titles. He cared about truth. He didn't know that far away. On the Zephyri homeworld of Azareth, something had changed. Princess Virelia stood in her private chamber, her hands trembling slightly. Her medical assistant, a soft-spoken healer named Sienna, stood beside her. A small glowing screen showed something unusual. "You're sure?" Virelia asked quietly. Sienna nodded. "Yes, Princess. The results are clear. You're pregnant." Virelia's breath caught. Zephyri pregnancies were rare, royal pregnancies even rarer. But what shocked her more was the genetic scan. "Child. The father is human," Sienna said gently. Virelia touched her stomach. That should be impossible. Zephyri and humans were from different parts of the galaxy. Their DNA should not mix, so their biology was not compatible. But somehow, the child growing inside her was healthy as strong and carried genes from both. "Parents, does anyone else know?" she asked. "No, Princess. Told no one, but the high advisors will notice soon. You must decide what to do." Virelia stared at the stars outside her window. In her heart, she already knew what she had to do. Back on Earth, Elias was preparing for his next mission when a message came through his private channel. Message received. "Unknown source. Meet me at the old observatory at 2200 hours. Come alone." Belias's heart skipped a beat. He didn't waste a second. That night, he arrived at the old observatory on the edge of the Swiss mountains. The building was dark and empty, except for a soft light glowing from inside the dome. He stepped in and there she was, Princess Virelia. She had disguised herself in human clothing, a long black coat, gloves, and a hood, but her eyes still glowed faintly, and her voice was as calm as ever. "Hello, Elias," she said. He walked toward her, surprised but relieved. "You came to Earth? That's dangerous. I had to speak to you in person," she said. "There's no time for slow messages." "What is it?" he asked. "Are you in danger?" Virelia looked at him for a long moment. Then she said the words that would change everything. "I'm pregnant, and it's yours, Elias." The silence that followed was heavy. Elias stared at her, not sure if he had heard her right. "What?" Virelia stepped closer. "It happened after Delpharia. The connection between Usit was real. My healers confirmed it. The child is strong and alive." Elias took a breath. His thoughts spun. "But Zephyrian humans, this shouldn't be possible." "I know," she said, "but it is. Our child is proof." He looked at her stomach, then into her eyes, and now Varelia's voice dropped to a whisper. Now, everything changes. If the Zephyri High Council finds out, they will fear the child. Some may see it as a threat to the royal bloodline. Others may want to use it for power. And on Earth, Elias added, they'll do the same. Some leaders will panic. Some will want the child to be hidden. Or worse, Varelia nodded. That's why I came to you. You have a choice. If you walk away now, no one will ever know. I can protect the child alone. But if you stand with me, then you must be ready to face the galaxy. Elias didn't answer right away. He walked to the window, staring at the stars above. So many lights, so many worlds. One child could change everything. Finally, he turned to her. If the child is ours, then I will protect them. And I will protect you. Varelia's face softened. She took his hand. Then we stand together. Outside the observatory, a small surveillance drone blinked red. Unseen, someone was watching. A few days later, across the galaxy, rumors began to spread. Whispers in the Zephyri court spoke of strange movements by the princess. On Earth, secret files were opened. Government eyes turned toward Elias Monroe. The news hadn't gone public, but those in power could feel something coming. A new force was entering the galaxy, and it had a human heart. For days, Elias Monroe couldn't sleep. He stood on the balcony of his apartment in New Geneva, looking up at the night sky. His hand rested on the small silver pendant Varelia had left with him as a fury symbol of truth and unity. Still hear her voice from that secret meeting at the observatory. I'm pregnant. And it's yours, Elias. The words repeated in his mind like an echo that wouldn't stop. He was going to be a father. Not just any father, but the father of a child that could change the course of history. A child born from two different worlds. A child who would carry the blood of Earth and the stars. But the choice Varelia gave him still haunted him. You can walk away and no one will know. Or you can stand with Mayond, be ready to face the galaxy. He had seen war. He had seen worlds burn. He knew what fear and power could do to people. And now, he knew what leaders on both sides would do if they discovered the truth. On the Zephyri homeworld of Azareth, Princess Varelia walked silently through the silver halls of her palace. Her royal robe flowed behind her as she passed high-ranking nobles and curious advisors. Most bowed with respect. Others stared too long. She had kept her secret well. Only her healer, Sienna, and Elias knew about the child. But secrets never stayed. Hidden for long in a palace filled with old eyes and sharp minds, in her private garden, Varelia sat alone beneath a crystal tree. She placed her hand gently over her stomach. She didn't feel fear, she felt calm. She believed in her child. But what troubled her was the world the child would be born into. The Zephyri Empire had always followed tradition. Bloodlines, power, honor, these things were not just culture. They were law. A child born from a union with a human would not be welcomed by all. Some would see the child as hope, others as a threat. Her voice was steady when she spoke to the air. Sienna, send a secure message to Elias Monroe. I must speak with him again. Elias was training in the Terran Embassy's defense hall when the message came.
Elias.
Answer, Elias. The child's future depends on it. V. He stood still for a moment, then looked at the ceiling as if the stars above could hear him. He had spent his life serving Earth. He had fought in wars, kept secrets, and built peace where he could. But nothing had ever felt as real or as dangerous as this moment. He opened a secure channel and replied, I choose to stand with you, no matter what happens. 3 nights later, they met again, this time in a deep forest on Earth, under cover of night. Varelia stepped from the shadows, her cloak shining faintly under the moonlight. Elias stood waiting beside a small fire. They said nothing at first, and Varelia walked forward, placing her hand in his. I'm glad you came, she said softly. Elias looked at her. I won't run from this. I never did. She nodded. Then, we must plan. There are people in both our worlds who will want to stop this child from being born. They fear change. They fear peace that comes from unity, not control. Elias looked serious. We need to protect the truth. We can't do it alone. He had already contacted two of his old war allies. One was a tech expert named Kara, and the other a former Zephyri defector named Jorvin. Both agreed to help. The child will need more than protection, Elias said. They will need a future, and that starts now. Meanwhile, far away on a hidden orbital station, a shadowy figure watched surveillance recordings taken from Earth in the video. Princess Virelia and Elias stood close, talking in secret. The figure narrowed his eyes. He was Grand Advisor Thalor, one of the oldest members of the Zephyri Council. He had always disliked humans. To him they were unstable, wild, and dangerous. And now one had placed a mark on the royal bloodline. He sent out a coded message to a group of secret Zephyri operatives. The princess carries something that cannot be allowed to live. Find her. Stop this, before the galaxy falls to chaos. Back on Earth, Virelia stayed hidden in a secured, safe house built by Elias's contacts. It was deep underground, beneath a quiet mountain far from the cities. The walls were lined with energy shields, and the rooms were warm and quiet. Here, the princess could rest. Here, she was not a royal or a leader. She was just a mother -to-B. Elias. Brought her food and kept watch. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they sat in silence. In those quiet moments, they shared hopes and fears. What do you think the child will look like? Virelia asked one night. Elias smiled. With your eyes. And my stubbornness? Trouble? She laughed softly. Perhaps that's what the galaxy needs. But even as they laughed, danger was getting closer. Two Zephyri operatives arrived on Earth disguised as traitors. They carried a hidden device designed to scan energy signatures and find the princess. They followed the trail carefully, avoiding human detection. But Kara, Elias's tech expert, caught their signal. Her screen beeped red. We've got company, she warned Elias. Someone's looking for her. Elias didn't hesitate. Then we move. Within hours they had packed and left the safe house. Virelia traveled in a sealed hover transport, under heavy cloak, while Elias and Jorvin set up false trails in 3 directions. They didn't stop moving. Not for food, not for sleep, because they knew the future of 2 civilizations was now growing inside one woman, and if they failed, it would all be lost. Rain poured down on the quiet roads of northern Europe. The sky was dark, and clouds hid the stars. Small black hover transport moved swiftly through the trees, nearly silent. Inside it sat Princess Virelia, wearing a dark hood and long gloves. Her eyes stayed on the road ahead, but her mind was elsewhere. She was carrying a life that could unite 2 galaxies, or destroy both. At her side sat Elias Monroe, his hand resting on the control panel. He drove with focus, his jaw tight. Then followed a second vehicle carrying Kara, the tech expert, and Jorvin, a Zephyri defector. The safe house had been discovered. They had only minutes to escape before Zephyri operatives arrived. Now, they were moving toward one of Earth's oldest and most protected Terran Alliance bases, hidden deep under a mountain. We'll be safe there, Elias said. Virelia looked at him. Safe, for now, but they will keep coming. Then we keep moving. As long as we stay ahead, we protect the child. It's all that matters. Far above Earth, on a secret Zephyri command ship, Grand Advisor Thalor stood before a star map. Red dots moved across the screen, tracking every signal coming from the surface. He spoke calmly to his lead hunter. They have escaped once. Do not let them escape again? Yes, Advisor, the hunter said. We will find the princess and deal with the human. Thalor's eyes narrowed. Do not harm her. We need the child alive. Make sure the human does not survive. Back on Earth, Kara worked quickly in the back of her vehicle. Her fingers flew across her datapad as she jammed satellite scans and scrambled tracker signals. Her screens flickered with alerts. We've got 2 enemy drones flying low, heading straight for us, she said. Jorven checked his scanner. There. Fast is a Fury Shadow class. That means they're serious. Of course they're serious, Kara said. She's carrying a royal heir. They sent a message to Elias. Incoming threat to drones. Intercept likely in 6 minutes. Elias glanced at the message, then spoke calmly. Hold tight. He turned off the road and sped down a hidden path between the trees. The hover transport adjusted quickly, weaving through tight spaces as branches brushed against the windows. Virelia held onto the seat, silent and alert. She trusted Elias. She had seen his courage back on Delpharia. Now she saw his strength. Again, not in battle, but in leadership. Suddenly, loud hum filled the air. The 2 enemy drones appeared above the forest, firing warning blasts. Blue energy beams struck the ground near the vehicle. Elias pressed a button on the control panel. Auto defense system, online. Metal plates slid over the windows, and the hover transport's sides glowed with protective energy. The back compartment opened, revealing a turret. In the second vehicle, Yorvin climbed up and took position behind the cannon. Let's give them something to think about. He aimed and fired. A red pulse shot into the sky and struck one drone, making it spin out of control. It exploded in a ball of blue flames, but the second drone dodged and fired back. Hitting the road just ahead of Elias's vehicle, the hover transport jumped, then slammed back down, skidding sideways. Elias gritted his teeth, trying to keep control. We can't outrun that one, Kara said overcomes. We need to stop it. Elias made a decision. I'll slow down. You take the shot. Reduce speed slightly, giving Jorvin a better view. Jorvin locked in. Target acquired. Fired again. The second drone was hit directly in its core. It dropped like a stone and crashed into the trees, lighting up the night with a loud explosion. Both targets down, Kara confirmed. But more will come. After 2 more hours of travel, the group reached the hidden base. It was built deep, inside a mountain, hidden behind old rock formations. The entry gate opened only after scanning Elias's DNA. The thick metal doors slid apart, and the vehicles rolled inside. Inside, they were greeted by Captain Lorna Bryce, an old friend of Elias. She was in charge of the Terran Defense Vault. Didn't think I'd ever see you again, Monroe, she said with a raised eyebrow. Elias smiled. It's good to see you too. We need a place to lay low, and we need your silence. Bryce looked at Virelia. She seemed surprised, but didn't. Ask questions. You'll have my help, as long as you don't bring war to my doorstep. I'll do my best, Elias said. Later, in a quiet room under the base, Virelia sat beside Elias. She held a small energy crystal in her hand, watching it flicker softly. Her face looked tired but calm. This life, she said, touching her stomach gently. It is growing fast. Scifi children develop quickly. In just a few weeks it will begin to show. Elias nodded. I'll protect you, no matter what. Virelia looked at him seriously. You still have a chance to leave. You could walk away and live freely. Told you before, Elias said. I'm not going anywhere. She reached for his hand. Then you and I must prepare, because peace will not come easily. At the edge of the galaxy, a secret council of Zephyri elders gathered in silence. A messenger entered with a report. The princess has gone into hiding. She is under human protection. One elder stood. If the child is born, it may be seen as the true heir. That would break the line of tradition. Another elder replied, or it may bring something we have long forgotten, unity. But not everyone agreed. In the shadows, Grand Advisor Thalor whispered, unity is just a softer word for surrender. He left the meeting with a new plan forming in his mind. Deep underground. In a mountain base on Earth, a child of 2 worlds continued to grow. Outside, enemies searched. Inside, hope remained. The galaxy was changing, and nothing could stop it now. The deep mountain base was quiet. Tension filled the air. Captain Elias Monroe stood beside a glowing map table, watching red dots move across the screen. The enemy was closing in again. Satellite signals showed a large Zephyri ship entering. Earth's orbit bigger than any sent before. It wasn't a diplomatic vessel. It was a warship. They're not coming to talk this time, Elias said, his voice calm but sharp. Across the room, Princess Virelia sat on a padded bench, her hands gently resting on her stomach. Her pregnancy was now visible. The glow in her violet eyes had grown stronger, and her aura seemed brighter every day. "They must have tracked me again," she said. "Thaler will not stop until this child is in his hands." Kara stood nearby, tapping on her tablet. "We hacked into their transmission logs. They've issued a secret order. Capture the princess alive. Destroy anyone with her." Yorvin, the Zefori defector, looked serious. "If the Lord brings her back, he'll control the royal line. The child will become a tool for power." Elias nodded. "Then we don't let that happen." They made a bold plan. If they kept running, they would eventually be caught. If they stayed underground, the Zefiri ship would bomb the mountain. So Elias made a difficult decision. They would go straight to the source. "We're going to board that ship," he said. "Got it. And we're going to show the galaxy the truth." Kara frowned. "You want to break into a Zefiri command ship?" "Yes," Elias replied. "We'll broadcast a live genetic scan of the child. We'll prove to the galaxy that this isn't a threat. It's a miracle." Virelia stood slowly. "And if they still call it a threat, then we fight," Elias said. The mission began at night, with the help of Captain Bryce. They used a stealth shuttle to leave the mountain unnoticed. Yorvin flew the craft through Earth's upper atmosphere, using old Zefiri codes to fool the warship's scanners as they neared the massive vessel in orbit. The group prepared for what might be their last mission. Elias placed a small communicator on his chest. "Once we're inside, we head straight to the central broadcast room. Kara, you get the signal out? Yorvin and I will cover you." Virelia placed her hand on Ilias's arm, "And me. You're the message," he said softly. "You'll speak to them. Not just to your people, but to all people." She nodded. "Then let's finish this." The shuttle docked quietly with the underside of the Zefori ship. Inside, the halls were wide and filled with silver light. The team moved fast, avoiding patrols and security drones. Yorvan led the way, using his knowledge of the ship's layout. But before they could reach the main chamber, alarms rang out. "They found us," Kara said, typing quickly on her device. "Keep moving," Elias shouted. Guards appeared ahead, their armor shining under the hallway lights. They raised their weapons. Elias stepped forward, blocking their path. "We don't want to fight," but the guards didn't care. They opened fire. Blue beams of energy flew through the air. Elias rolled to the side and returned fire. Yorvin joined him, sending out a shock blast that knocked two guards to the floor. "Go!" Elias yelled at Kara and Virelia. "Get to the control room." Kara grabbed Virelia's hand and ran down the hall. Behind them, Elias and Yorvin kept the guards busy. Moving from cover to cover, the ship shook as the engines powered up. "There." Preparing to leave Earth's orbit, Yorvin warned. "We need to end this now," Elias said. Kara and Virelia reached the control room. It was filled with glowing screens and communication towers. Kara plugged her device into the main system and began uploading. "Signal is almost ready," she said. "Once it goes live, no one can block it." Virelia took a deep breath. Her heart beat fast. She stood in front of the camera, straight, and proud Kara nodded, broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. A blue light blinked. They were live. Virelia began to speak. "This is Princess Virelia of the Zefiri Empire. I speak not as a ruler, but as a mother. You have heard rumors, you have heard fear. But today, I bring you truth. I carry a child. This child is the result of a union between Zefiri and human. And this child lives. This child grows. This is not weakness. This is not shame. This is the future." Kara turned the camera to the genetic scan. It showed both Zefiri and human DNA perfectly joined. Strong, balanced all across the galaxy, people watched. On Earth, in Zefiri space, on neutral stations, screens lit up. Leaders paused. Soldiers froze. Citizens whispered. It was real in the hallway. The guards began to retreat, confused, afraid, unsure. Elias stepped over a fallen soldier, hearing voices on their coms. "Is it true? What does this mean?" "A new heir." Elias looked at Jorvin. "We've done it." But it wasn't over yet. A blast shook the ship. From the upper deck, a shadow moved quickly, tall, cloaked, and full of anger. Grand Advisor Thaler had arrived. He entered the control room with 2 elite guards. His voice was cold. "Stop the broadcast." Varelia turned toward him. "You cannot stop the truth now." Thaler's eyes burned. "You've broken the law of our people. You've betrayed your blood." "I've honored life," she said, calmly. "You only fear what you can't control." He raised his weapon, but Elias entered just in time. "Step away," Elias said. Thaler aimed. They faced each other, and for a moment, time slowed. Then a single shot rang out. Elias fired first. Thaler fell. The room fell silent. Later, as the ship was secured by human and Zephyri peace forces, Elias stood beside Varelia, watching the stars. Through the control room window, "You did it," Elias said. "You changed everything." "We did it together," she replied. Ships across the galaxy were now standing down. The broadcast had reached every system. Protests and celebrations had already begun. Some leaders still resisted, but most saw what the child truly meant. A bridge, a future, a new beginning. The sun rose slowly over the earth, shining golden light on the green fields outside the new Unity Embassy near Geneva. The war was over. The fighting had stopped. For the first time in years, peace felt real. Inside the peaceful building, people. From across the stars gathered, humans and Zephyri officials sat together, talking with calm voices and hopeful eyes. The old flags were gone. New ones, showing both species together, now hung from the walls. Captain Elias Monroe stood quietly by a large window. His uniform was new, dark blue with a silver star, marked with a golden Zephyri emblem. He had been given the title of Galactic Peace Envoy, the first human to receive it. His eyes watched the ships above, floating in peaceful orbit. For a moment, he remembered the danger, the fights, the running, but all of that had led here. Footsteps approached. It was Princess Varelia. She now wore a flowing robe of white and violet, the symbol of both her house and the new future. Crown had been returned, but this time, not as a ruler, but as a voice of the people. She smiled at Elias, and he smiled back. "How is she?" Elias asked gently. Varelia placed her hand on her stomach, now almost due. "She's calm today. She must feel the peace." "You really think it's a girl?" Varelia nodded. "Yes. I can feel her thoughts sometimes. Strong, but kind." Elias looked back at the stars. The galaxy is going to be very different because of her. Later that day, the Grand Council gathered. The chamber was round, with seats placed in a full circle. Delegates from many worlds came, not just humans and Zephyri, but others too. The event was being watched live on 1,000 worlds. Varelia stood in the center. She spoke with grace and calm. "Once our people feared each other. We saw only difference, built walls, not bridges. But now I carry a child. She is not a threat. She is not a weapon. She is a sign. This is not the end of 2 worlds. This is the beginning of one. Let us build a galaxy where our children are not punished for their blood, but praised for their hope." Was silence. Then, slowly, one by one, people stood. A human diplomat, a Zephyri elder, a robot ambassador, even a Martian delegate. They clapped. The room filled with sound, with emotion. With unity, the resolution passed. A new council was formed, the Alliance of Worlds with equal power shared among its members. Humans were no longer the new species. They were now leaders. Days passed. In a quiet medical chamber in the new capital on Mars, Varelia gave birth. Elias stayed by her side the whole time, holding her hand. The room was filled with soft lights and calming sounds. Finally, a cry echoed through the room. The baby was born. A girl, small, with a soft tone of silver in her skin and bright violet eyes. Her hands curled tightly, strong and alive. The doctors stepped back. "She's perfect," one whispered. Elias looked down at the child, speechless. He had faced war, death, space battles, But nothing made him feel this much awe. Virelia held the child close. "Welcome, little one," she whispered. "You are hope." They named her Illyra, a mix of both their names. News of her birth spread across the galaxy. People celebrated in cities, on ships, even in deep colonies. Statues were built, songs were written. Some still doubted, but many more believed. Months passed. Illyra grew quickly, strong and curious. Her eyes followed everything. She smiled when Elias talked and laughed when Virelia sang. Elias and Virelia decided to raise her, together on Earth and on Zephyr planets. They wanted her to know both cultures, both homes. Together, they visited war-torn areas, helped rebuild destroyed stations, and opened schools where both species could learn side by side. Kara became head of the Earth Scifi Tech Exchange. Jorvan returned to his people, now a respected hero who helped stop a war. Even Captain Bryce opened a training academy for young peacekeepers. The galaxy slowly healed. One quiet evening, Elias and Virelia sat in a garden under Earth's moon. Lyra played with glowing flowers nearby. "I never thought we would get here," Elias said. Virelia looked at him. "Did I? But you believed even when I didn't." Elias smiled. "Oh, you gave me something to believe in?" They sat together watching the stars. Above them, a space station named the Unity Ring spun slowly, joint creation of both Earth and Zephyr engineers. Soon, it would become the base for the next great mission, peaceful expansion beyond the galaxy's edge. Virelia turned to Elias. "Do you think she'll be ready for all this?" He nodded. "She'll be better than us, stronger, wiser, kinder." Watched as Illyra looked up at the stars and pointed. "What's that, Mama?" "That, Illyra," Virelia said gently, "is our future."